Chapter 1: The Encounter. Alice was a young, adventurous woman who had a close-knit group of friends: Ethan, Sophie, and Tom. They all lived in a small, picturesque town surrounded by dense woods that appeared to stretch endlessly into the horizon. Although the town was peaceful and quiet, the woods had always been a source of fascination and mystery for its residents. It was a warm Saturday morning in May, and Alice and her friends decided to embark on a day-long hike in the woods. They gathered their backpacks, water bottles, and snacks, and met up at the edge of the forest. Alice felt the sun's rays gently kiss her face as they began their trek into the woods, the leaves and branches creating a dappled pattern on the forest floor. As they hiked, the friends chatted and laughed, feeling a sense of freedom and excitement that only the great outdoors could provide. After walking for several hours, they stumbled upon a small clearing with a gurgling stream. The water's cool touch was a welcome relief, as they splashed their faces and rested in the soft grass. Suddenly, Ethan noticed something in the distance. A tall, shadowy figure was standing at the edge of the clearing, partially obscured by the trees. He quickly pointed it out to his friends. They all froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. The figure seemed to be observing them, its silhouette eerily still. A chill ran down Alice's spine as she stared at the figure, but before she could say anything, the shadowy presence vanished. The friends exchanged nervous glances and questioned what they had just seen. They tried to rationalize it, considering the possibility of a trick of the light or an overactive imagination. But Alice couldn't shake the feeling that the figure was something more, something beyond the realm of their understanding. Despite her fear, she felt a strange curiosity and a desire to learn more about the shadowy figure. Unbeknownst to her, this encounter would lead Alice and her friends on a journey filled with mystery, terror, and ultimately, a deeper understanding of the unknown. The woods, once a source of wonder and beauty, would soon reveal the darkness lurking within its depths. Chapter 2: The Research. In the days following the encounter, Alice's curiosity grew. She spent hours at the local library, poring over old newspaper articles, books, and town records, trying to find any information about the shadowy figure. The musty smell of the archives seemed to envelop her as she sifted through piles of documents, her determination unwavering. As Alice delved deeper into the town's history, she discovered a series of similar stories that dated back decades. People had reported sightings of a shadowy figure in the woods, often accompanied by feelings of unease and fear. These stories were often dismissed as mere folklore or overactive imaginations, but Alice couldn't help but feel a connection to the people who had experienced these encounters. Intrigued by the pattern of sightings, Alice began to map out the locations and dates of the incidents. As she connected the dots, she realized that there was a distinct path that the shadowy figure seemed to follow. It led deeper into the woods, towards an area rarely explored by the townsfolk. Alice shared her findings with Ethan, Sophie, and Tom, who were equally fascinated by the discovery. They couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the stories, something that went beyond simple folklore. The group felt compelled to investigate further and uncover the truth behind the mysterious figure. As they delved deeper into the legend, they couldn't help but notice the increasing darkness that seemed to surround them. The once bright and beautiful woods began to take on a more sinister appearance, as if the shadows were growing longer and more menacing with each passing day. But despite the growing fear and unease, Alice's determination to uncover the truth remained steadfast. She knew that there had to be an explanation for the shadowy figure, and she was determined to find it, no matter the cost. Chapter 3: The Local Historian. Realizing that they needed more information to fully understand the legend behind the shadowy figure, Alice decided to reach out to a local historian, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson was well known for his extensive knowledge of the town's history and folklore. After explaining their encounter in the woods and their research findings, Alice convinced him to meet with the group and share his insights. Mr. Thompson welcomed Alice, Ethan, Sophie, and Tom into his cozy home, which was filled with shelves of old books and artifacts. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and leather, an aroma that hinted at the countless secrets and stories held within the pages. As they sat down to discuss the shadowy figure, Mr. Thompson revealed a tragic tale that had been passed down through generations. Many years ago, a family lived in a secluded cabin deep within the woods. They were a close-knit family of 5, including the youngest son, Benjamin. One fateful evening, Benjamin ventured into the forest to gather firewood and never returned. The family searched for him tirelessly, but he was never found. As the years went by, stories of a shadowy figure wandering the woods began to circulate. Some believed it was Benjamin's spirit, unable to find peace due to the unresolved circumstances of his disappearance. Hearing this story, Alice and her friends couldn't help but feel a connection to Benjamin and his family. The idea of a lost soul wandering the woods in search of closure was both heartbreaking and terrifying. They knew they had to help the spirit find peace, but to do so, they would need to venture back into the woods and uncover the truth about what happened to Benjamin. As they left Mr. Thompson's home, a sense of unease settled over the group. They couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, as if the shadowy figure was already aware of their intentions. But despite the mounting fear, they knew they had to continue their journey, for the sake of the lost soul and their own peace of mind. Chapter 4: Nightmares Begin. The days following their meeting with Mr. Thompson were filled with restless nights for Alice. She began to experience vivid, unsettling nightmares about the shadowy figure. In her dreams, it would appear at the edge of her vision, its silhouette always just out of reach. Each night, the figure seemed to grow closer, as if it were trying to communicate a message or warning. Alice's friends noticed her growing fear and anxiety. Ethan, Sophie, and Tom did their best to support her, but they couldn't deny their own growing unease about the shadowy figure. Despite her nightmares, Alice became even more determined to uncover the truth and help the spirit find peace. The group decided to return to the woods to investigate further, hoping to find more clues about Benjamin's disappearance and the shadowy figure. They gathered their supplies and set out early one morning, their hearts heavy with anticipation and dread. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere. The once vibrant and inviting woods now seemed to be shrouded in darkness and silence. Each rustling leaf and snapping twig sent shivers down their spines, as if unseen eyes were watching their every move. Finally, they arrived at the old, abandoned cabin that had once been home to Benjamin and his family. The wooden structure was weathered and crumbling, a testament to the years of neglect and the harsh elements. The group cautiously approached the cabin, feeling a sense of sadness and foreboding as they crossed the threshold. Inside, the cabin was filled with dust and the remnants of a life long forgotten. The group explored the rooms carefully, searching for any clues that might shed light on the tragic events that had taken place there. As they did so, they experienced strange occurrences and unexplained noises, their fear and unease growing with each chilling encounter. Chapter 5: The Return to the Woods. With each chilling discovery in the cabin, Alice and her friends felt increasingly convinced that they were close to unraveling the mystery of the shadowy figure. As they continued to search, they stumbled upon a hidden door in the floor, which led to a small, dimly lit room beneath the cabin. As the group descended into the hidden room, they were met with a damp, musty smell that hung heavily in the air. Cobwebs adorned every corner, and dust covered the few objects that occupied the space. In the center of the room, they found an old, weathered wooden chest, its latch rusted and worn. Hesitantly, Alice opened the chest, revealing a collection of the missing boy's belongings. They found his clothes, a few toys, and a journal filled with Benjamin's thoughts and experiences. As they read through the journal, they discovered that Benjamin had been unhappy and felt isolated from his family, often seeking solace in the woods. A sense of empathy and sadness washed over the group as they realized that the shadowy figure was indeed the spirit of Benjamin, lost and searching for the love and acceptance he had craved in life. Alice and her friends knew they had to help the spirit find peace, but to do so, they needed to solve the mystery of his disappearance and bring closure to his restless soul. Determined to uncover the truth, the group spent days searching the woods, following the path Alice had mapped out during her research. As they investigated, they discovered clues that began to piece together the events surrounding Benjamin's disappearance, leading them to a shocking revelation that would change their understanding of the tragic tale forever. Chapter 6: The Haunting Revelation. As Alice and her friends followed the trail of clues, they discovered a hidden cave deep within the woods. The entrance was obscured by overgrown foliage and rocks, making it easy to miss unless one knew what they were looking for. The group cautiously entered the cave, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. Inside the cave, they found the final piece of the puzzle: Benjamin's skeletal remains, resting among tattered clothing and a small, rusted pocket knife. It became clear that Benjamin had sought refuge in the cave during a storm, but a tragic accident had left him fatally injured and unable to return home. Overwhelmed with a mixture of sorrow and relief, the group carefully collected Benjamin's remains, determined to give him the proper burial he deserved. As they carried his remains back to the cabin, they felt a sudden stillness in the air, as if the woods were holding their breath. Upon returning to the cabin, they held a small memorial service for Benjamin, sharing their memories of their journey and the tragic tale they had uncovered. As they laid Benjamin's remains to rest, they felt a shift in the atmosphere, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from the woods. Chapter 7. The Final Goodbye. In the days following the memorial, the group could sense that the shadowy figure's presence had begun to fade. The once menacing woods seemed to regain their former beauty and serenity, as if acknowledging the closure brought to Benjamin's spirit. One evening, as Alice sat on her porch reflecting on the events that had transpired, she caught a glimpse of the shadowy figure in the distance. This time, however, it appeared less ominous and more ethereal, as if it were finally at peace. The figure offered a silent nod of gratitude to Alice before vanishing into the woods for the last time. With the mystery solved and Benjamin's spirit finally at rest, Alice and her friends felt a sense of closure and accomplishment. They had not only uncovered the truth behind a long-forgotten tragedy but had also brought peace to a lost soul that had wandered the woods for decades. Their lives would never be the same, forever marked by their encounter with the shadow in the woods and the understanding of the world beyond their own.